has a special area of expertise as well. So they may well want to, you know, sort of share with you some of the things that, that their expertise leads them to want to share with you, I guess. And then that discussion will go on for about 20 minutes or so, and then the facilitators will be taking notes and they'll present the information back to the larger group, and then I'll kind of wrap it up, summarize it, okay? So let me introduce here, Patty Patry from Bowdon, North Dakota, and she's, excuse me, I have to get my glasses here, chair of the Bowdon Development Center Incorporated, which was created in 2002 after the closure of the school, the elevator, and the railroad spur. Now that had to be a challenge to deal with. She was a member of the first North Dakota Rural Leadership Class and has served on the North Dakota Farmers Markets and Growers Association boards, and is presently chairs of the Wells County Farmers Union Board. So she's very active in community affairs. And then next to her we have Ken Railing, and he's the City Council President from Hebron, North Dakota. Oh, and I might add that Bowdon is roughly in the center of the state, just west of Carrington. And Ken Railing from Hebron, North Dakota is more in the southwest corner, roughly east of Richardson and west of Dickinson. Yeah. Okay, so you have some visual imagery there of where they are. And Ken is a lifelong resident of Hebron. He's a Vietnam veteran and the former office manager of the Hebron Brick Company, which is actually quite a famous company. He retired from that after 43 years, so has lots of experience in the community and in business. He's been involved in city government for many years and is currently president of the city council. He's been a member of several local organizations, including American Legion, the Lions, and the Hebron Wildlife and Gun Club. So we'll have Patty tell us about Bowdon first, and then Ken will tell us about Hebron, and then they'll each share with us their particular website so we can kind of get a visual of the community activities on the screen. So Patty?
Got the floor.
Yeah. Thank you for having me here today. I always like to talk about Bowdon. It's almost a miracle that it's there. I guess she told you a little bit how we started, and so I understood I was supposed to share about our strengths and our challenges. So I sort of made a little list. When the school actually consolidated with Fessenden, I think the town knew that if we didn't do something, we wouldn't be there in 10 years. That's usually the history. And we have a town on each side of us that did disappear pretty much when their school went. So I think our major strength is just developing Bowdon development. And we actually met with some people from Reeder who had done the same thing when their school consolidated. I think they consolidated with Scranton. And we became a 501c3 right away. We put together a strategic plan, recreating Bowdon's future. And I just wanted to share with you 5 points. We came up with develop new economic opportunity, promote an attractive and vibrant Main Street, provide social and recreation activities, facilitate new community services, and market Bowdon. And so some of the things that happened since then, we did the visioning session with, actually it was NDSU, the Center for Community Vitality. But then a few years later, we went through the Horizons program. I don't know if you're familiar with that, with the extension. Some of the projects we've done, we completed an RV parking campground on the football field. We developed a festival, which is a Duck Fest. So I think we had Duck Fest before Lakota. And we tried to develop tourism at the same time. We developed a farmer's market in Bowdon that meets in the school gym, because part of our task is to reuse the school and it is like an extended community center or event center. We do a calendar raffle every year to raise money, and part of the money supports another project in the community. The community formed a cooperative and purchased the grocery store when the owner died. We started a thrift shop to subsidize the grocery store. We are the retailer for the new Bowdon Meats business in town, which is a separate cooperative, but they are selling the finished, the retail meat through the grocery store, unless you order a half or a whole or take your animal in there. We were able to obtain 2 USDA grants, one to redo the roof and part of the school over the library. We made a library in what was the school library. The museum people had already started one in the museum, so we moved it over from the museum. We started a website soon, but we just upgraded to this one, and our webmaster's here today, so she's gonna talk about it a little later. We also have our own newspaper. We do it 3 times a year, and Michelle is also our person who does the Guardian. We raise money through membership and membership dues and donations, about $5,000 a year through those 2 things together. So I think that's our main strength. But we now have a city council who has done infrastructure improvements, and they're getting new members on there, and they're showing some leadership. So we like that. Our third strength is volunteerism. A lot of volunteering in Bowdon. That's what makes the town thrive. And Bowdon Lions is one of the main organizations, and that was reinvigorated a few years ago by our pastor's husband. And so he's the go-to guy in Bowdon now. If you need anything fixed, if you need anything done, he's on every board, and he brought new life to the Lions. And we're all happy because of that. We don't have volunteers working in the cafe, but it was people who volunteered in the community to buy the cafe when it might have been closed. And again, we have a museum and a thrift store, a lot of volunteering. The fourth strength is that we have new people moving into Bowdon, partially because of the meat plant, partially because young people are coming back to farm. One's going to head up the library. We want to become a state-affiliated library. One is going to head up our art show at Duck Fest. Another gal became our auditor. Michelle moved to Fessenden not too many years ago, sort of extension of Bowdon, vice versa, and she's been wonderful help for us to get us to think about marketing and social media. And another strong point I want to mention, the last one, is our emergency services. We have both ambulance and fire department. And they are very good, and they have many volunteers. The challenges, the number one that bothers most of the people in town who can see the glass half full is the ones who don't see it half full, you know. They see it half empty. The people with lack of vision. So that's number one challenge. And this includes naysayers, people who said you shouldn't put up a meat plant because you're going to be competing with the guy down the road. And you know, what do you say to those people? You can either confront them or ignore them and try to involve them somehow. I tend to ignore them, and I don't think that's the answer. So maybe you can come up with some ideas. How do you involve naysayers to turn around their negative thoughts? And something I just wanted to mention was that lack of respect by some people. It's like in small towns, people sort of dumb down sometimes. It's like they don't see outside the town. So when somebody came into the cafe and left a bunch of bad cartoons and knocking our president, you know, my first reaction was, who brought this in? And of course, nobody was going to tell me. And I said, well, I don't think it belongs here, and I'm taking it home. It bothers me that they think that they can do that and then sit around the cafe and do negative things. I don't like that. Okay, so that's a challenge. Number 2 is that now we are part of a bigger school system with another town, and so we need to get people to claim that we are one together, as in Bowdon. Okay, and work with each other more. And of course, we probably were rivals time ago. I'm from out of state, so I didn't know about that rivalry, but I don't think that's the real reason. I think people just don't want to take the time to work together sometimes. Number 3 challenge, we need to promote our town together. You know, not just like the Lions do this little thing and somebody else does this thing, but we need to be working together. And so that we use every asset that we have, and especially the website. We're not used to feeding information into Michelle so she gets it on the website. I'm not either. It's not my first thought, but we have to get to that point. So we're promoting our community. And next point was our aging population and burnout, which, you know, every small community I think would say that. So we need to figure out how to engage and mentor our youth, which has been brought up here several times, in using social media. And you'll see on here when she shows it to you on how our bar, we have a new business in town the last few years, and it's called The Duck, and how being on Facebook, how that's engaging. So our younger people are getting more engaged in our community, I'd say largely because of the bar. But they are taking hold of our Duck Fest and a lot of things, and it has given me new hope. It really helps me tremendously to see that happening, so we do have a future.
Okay, very good. Ken, you want to tell us about,
I guess I'm on the floor next, and for you who do not know where Hebron's at, we've got 2 communities on either side of us, Richardson to the west, and we have Glenellen to the east. So we're in direct competition with them as time goes on. And Hebron, of course, was established in 1885, and we've celebrated 100 years and 125 years in the last 25 years. So, and I was part of that, so I can be proud of that. Something about Hebron. It has a brick company, and I think everybody knows where Hebron Brick's at. And they're distributed through the whole upper Midwest area, and they've gone further. They've gone to the Pueblo Islands because of the severe weather test that they passed. So they've used Hebron Brick in a lot of different areas. And the Hebron Brick has, you know, in, was it 2000? I think 1999 or 2000, they built a brand new plant. And that was a plus for Hebron, because if that wouldn't have been built, it probably wouldn't have stayed in Hebron. The president of the company at that time talked about moving it elsewhere. The only thing is we have the clay deposits there, and it would have been pretty hard to move the clay deposits. So it remained in Hebron. And we've also built a new community center, which was dedicated when we celebrated our 125th year in, I'm trying to think of the year 2010. So, and we turned the old community center that we had, or not community center, but our city hall, turned it over to the fire department, so they had an up-to-date place to house their fire equipment and the ambulance service. So that's a plus, and then they gained a lot of space, and they owned the building. Prior to that, they were at our mercy. When we wanted something, they had to relinquish it, and we didn't want that to happen. So, and the thing with the new community center was handicapped accessible. When we had our old one, we had stairs that we had to go downstairs, and she was talking about elderly people in the community, and this way they were all able to utilize it. If you're on one floor, we've got good seating for people, and we're constantly working to improve it. So we had a little trouble with acoustics, and you know, as we get older, our hearing deteriorates too. So, and I'm guilty of that too. So we're trying to get it more soundproof, and so it's easier to listen to people. Housing is one of our drawbacks. You know, we had a lot of substandard housing, And some people came in from, a lot of them from Bismarck and areas, bought up all the old property we had, and some of it should have never been revitalized and made into housing, but that was their choice. They had purchased it, so our housing is awful expensive in Hebron because we're on the fringe for the oil development, and they're charging exorbitant fees. You know, $1,000 is a lot of money for a rent on a house, you know, and you're concerned about the family, and you know, you take oil people, they do make a lot of money, but you don't want to take it away from them either. You know, a lot of people I've read articles on said that, well, they don't want to stay in North Dakota due to the fact that the rent's too high, and a lot of them are supporting 2 households. They've got one where they came from, and they'd rather move back if the economy improves. They're leaving. And you know, we're sitting here in western North Dakota, and they need more people to work in the oil fields. You know, I think that one time the statistic was between 3,000 and 6,000 people that were short. They were trying to get more people, truck drivers and stuff, to haul frac sand and things like that, and that's not going to happen. And one of the things we have right west of town, or east of town, excuse me, we have ADM put a big grain terminal in, and they also put in a siding in to unload frac sand. And everybody knows what frac sand is, do they not? Or some of the people from western North Dakota. It's a sand that comes out of Minnesota, comes in by rail cars, and then they put it in these tanker trucks, haul it to the oil fields, and they pump it into the oil wells, the existing oil wells, and it opens up the cracks in where the oil flows underground, and the wells are better producers. So they use a lot of that, and you know, there's some opposition to that. You go over into Pennsylvania, places like that, they don't like that stuff being pumped down in the holes, but in North Dakota, nobody's really complained about it yet, and it's increasing our oil flow. Just hit a record, I think it was over $1 million barrels a day that they're using. So, I mean, it's a plus for us because we employ, I think they employ 8 or 10 people too, to add to our employment. So that's a plus also. And then we had another company, Gazelle Company, came in. They were in Denver, Colorado, and they moved back to Hebron. And they do work with the trucking industry. They find loads for trucks. You know, you call this certain number, and then they'll tell you if there's any loads that have to go from, say, from Grand Forks to Illinois, Chicago, or whatever it is. And it helps the trucking industry. And they employ probably 7 or 8 people too, you know. And they were just sold by a bigger company. So I think business will get better for them too. So that's another plus for us. So another thing we have eating establishments where the town to the east of us, Glen Ellyn, has nothing to eat except they've got fast food. They've got pizza, and I think they've got like sub sandwiches, but it's all, you know, on a small scale. We have 2 operating cafes, and then we have a local liquor establishment that serves delicious hamburgers on Thursday. So, but that's limited to what we have too. So, but people come from Glen Ellyn and Richardson, and for like if they want to go out for an evening, because there's, you know, other place would be Dickinson, which would be a lot further to go, but we have a lot of people coming to town just to eat. Richardson has a cafe too, but they're only on a part-time basis from breakfast to dinner, and then they're pretty well closed up. They just don't work 8-hour day or 10-hour day or 12-hour, what it takes to require for a cafe. So that's a plus for Hebron also. Then we had 2 asphalt companies come into town, and they are situated in town. They bought buildings, and they do asphalt repair, street paving, things like that. So that's a plus for us, and it also employs people too. So I know you're trying to listen to some negatives, but I really, the only thing we are negative is on the housing. But other than that, everything else is, we have a swimming pool, which a lot of other communities don't have, and brings people into town. And it's, you know, it's a nice pool. It's something for the younger generation that they look forward to it every year. And our school system is a plus. We've been increasing enrollment, and that's basically due to the oil development, people moving in, and a lot of them come with small children. So I'd like to tell you some bad things, but I don't really want to do that. I don't want to degrade our community. I think we have a good community. So Anybody have any question that I could try to answer? Maybe you have some questions that, yes?
What's the population, Ken?
I'm going to say 900. But, you know, we haven't taken a census since this oil development started. The last time it was 888. You could turn it any way you wanted. It turned up to 888. But I know we've increased quite a bit, quite a number since that. So, yes.
I have a question for Patty. When you went about developing your festivals, did you contract that out with somebody? Because that takes fairly creative mind and an awful lot of work, depending on how grand or how big of a scale you do it. But I was wondering how.
We sent a gal to a class, I think, that NDSU had on festivals. So that helped somewhat, but I think a lot of things we do, we get it from talking to other communities and see what they do. You can go on their websites and see what they do in Maddox, see what they do in other places. And then a lot of it is what our people feel like doing. And so there's a lot of things we could do, but this last time we were feeling somewhat burnout from the festival, and so we held a brainstorming session, and that really boosted up the energy level again, and different people took responsibility for things because they could pick and choose what they wanted to do at the festival. So our festival changes every year, different things. We always keep some of the main things, but different events.
Let me just ask Ken, were there any other questions?
question
Oh,
there.
sorry.
Anyway, two quick ones. Well, the first one, really quick. You mentioned USDA loans. I'm curious which ones those were. And then the second question is when you saw you said a lot of the success you're experiencing is from the oil. When you saw that coming, did you have a strategic community meeting to plan for it, or did it just kind of happen?
Go ahead, Patty.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, the question was about USDA grants. First, the city, that's when the city really sort of showed the community that they believed in the future was by getting an infrastructure grant for water and sewer. And so we happened to get one of the highest grants allowable, which is 75%. And the loan was only 25. I shouldn't tell that to some of your communities. The other USDA grants, it was a community facilities grant, and particularly for a library. And so we applied for that, and we thought we had 3 years to bring our restrooms up to handicapped accessibility to meet the ADA laws. And when we changed USDA personnel, the second guy said, you don't. You have to apply for another grant and do it at the same time. So we did. We put a whole nother year on there. That's a lot of work. To me, USDA grants take a lot of work, but the loan that we have with it is low interest, and they really aren't that hard to work with. It just takes time. I think it's the time that bothered me the most. So we got 2 grants for the school building and handicap accessibility and the roof. And then the 4th one was for the meat plant, was a value-added producer grant, which is used for capital. So, we've often been told, and I think it's good advice, sit down and list every possible income that you can get for a project. And, seek out as many as you can, and have the dates that they're due and do all that, but it takes a lot of work, and grant writers get tired.
Okay, in reference to your question, we did have a meeting. It was a community meeting, and it was with neighboring communities too, like Quinaulin had the meeting. It was the county participated, NDSU participated, and a lot of the different organizations in what's going to happen, because we had no idea what was going to happen, what type of people were coming, and it was really an informational meeting, but we tried to keep everything under control. And then of course there was talk of these homes coming in, undesirable homes, and your infrastructure couldn't handle it, your storage systems, your water system and stuff like that. We did have a plus, so we have Southwest Pipeline water, and we weren't limited on that. We had plenty of water for them. Our sewer system, of course, wouldn't be able to handle anything, but we were able to manage so far, you know, and there was people talking in, well, they're gonna come in and build 300 houses for us. Well, that never happened. You know, somebody had a pipe dream and thought it was gonna really work out well, but that never did work. And then going back to our community center, you know, when we built that, of course, the people were opposed. Nobody wanted to pay taxes and never do want to pay taxes, and we're all guilty of that. And when we built that building, it cost us, I think it was like $800 and some thousand, excuse me. And so we had to decide on which funds that we could borrow money from to build this building, because we didn't want to raise our taxes to pay for that building. And we were able to, because we have a lot of conservative Germans, and that helped us, you know. I'm not picking on a nationality, but I mean, it's just that's just the way things operate. And we were able to steal enough money from different funds. I shouldn't say steal, we borrowed enough money from different funds, and it was all done legally. So don't send the Attorney General after us or anything like that, but it was all done legally. And we were able to build the building. And then the nice thing about it, when we were all done, the banker called me in one day and he says, you need money to finish that building? And I said, well, yeah, we could use about $160,000 yet. And they gave us $160,000 over a 10-year period. So, I mean, we couldn't defeat that. I mean, they wanted us to have a new building, and they gave it to us. So we thank them for that. So, you know, they did a good job. And anybody else have any other questions? Yes?
I was just wondering, do any of your communities employ city economic development staff, retail committee, or things like that? Or do you do this as part of your job and service to the community?
Well, in Hebron, we have what we call an EDC, Economic Development Committee. And it's local people that dedicate their time, and they work with the Bismarck-Mandan Development Association and anybody else. You know, if they have any kind of an inkling that somebody wants to come to town, needs financial help, they try to help them pursue it and get the thing done. So, you know, we haven't had that happen. I know Gazelle, when they came in, they needed financial help, and I think that loan has been all paid back and taken care of, you know. So we have a local economic development, and something about the Bismarck-Mandan Development Association, they do help the small community because they realize that people from Hebron spend their money in Bismarck and Mandan, and they're always willing to help. So it really is it's a godsend for them, because when we built this community center, they picked up a bill of $25,000 on the demolition on the old building. So that definitely did help. So that's something for somebody else to pursue too. If you live close to Bismarck or in that area, or anybody close by has a development association that they collect funds from the local community, they might be able to help you. So.
That's good to know. We're probably about as close to Bismarck as maybe you are.
You bet.
I wanted to make a comment. Now I'm trying to think of what it was related to. It was